In the race to be your best, there are many obstacles. There is an advantage to help you overcome them. After-school activities at Milwaukee Public Schools provide the opportunity to achieve now and will benefit you for the rest of your life. Students who participate get better grades, have more confidence, learn teamwork, and how to manage their time. Participate in after-school activities. Beat the obstacles. Create your own future.
MPS wants to attract more young people and adults to after-school activities. They can be recreational and social, like a game of basketball. They can be educational and academic, like a computer class, or you can settle down with a good book. These fifth graders, wearing special lights-on after-school t-shirts, were part of a celebration of after-school programs which have three main goals.
One was to try to assure safety for our young children. Two, to help working families, recognizing times are changing and we have a lot of single-parent families, and we wanted to make sure that we can assist them by providing safe, supervised opportunities. And the third goal was to be able to provide academic achievement, help support academic achievement for our students. We know that we got challenges with our teenagers. We know that to try to meet their needs after being in school all day, it's very difficult for them to come back. But we know that if we expose them to the type of groups, the type of socializing, and the type of field trips that will expand their interests, we'll be successful along those lines.
The Lights On After School event brought together a number of organizations which co-sponsor after-school activities with MPS.
We have curriculum designed to teach students about business, and while we are an in-school program, we also have programs that are geared towards the after-school setting, such as CLC, such as Boys and Girls Clubs. And we have different sets of curriculums for the different age groups, kindergarten through 12th grade. Our programs are open to any and every site, any and every school. Last year we were in over 2,400 classes, and we're hoping to reach 2,500 this year.
And we are open when kids are available and need to have a place to go after school, generally end of school day till 9 o'clock in the evening. And we have 6 branch operations, but more importantly, we've been able to, through the connection with Milwaukee Public Schools and the funding through community learning centers, been able to establish programs in 15 school locations in the city. Not only a place where they can go and have programs, but more importantly, it's a place where they can go to interact with a caring adult.
Fighting Back is a nonprofit organization in Milwaukee that funds a number of substance abuse prevention programs in Milwaukee. We try to, number one, get the message out about the dangers of alcohol and tobacco to your health. We try to provide activities that are drug-free and alcohol-free, and that's where our connection with the after-school programs come in.
We're at 46 different locations in elementary, middle, and high schools. They're open to the entire community, adults as well as children. We've got everyone there attending those programs after school with all ages of children. We've had over 23,000 kids last year attending the community learning centers. In addition to those, we have what we call safe place programs, and those are in some of our elementary schools where we service another several thousand children in those programs at key elementary schools throughout the city. And then we've got child care programs going on also in the recreation department, where we work and partner with the schools who actually want to do child care camps, we call them. So we have before and after school child care. So all in all, we're probably in about over 100 schools that we're operating some type of an after school program.
The reason I like the CLC program is because first off, it teaches you leadership abilities and how to go forward with helping other people. And it also gives me something to think about and like a career or something, like helping kids and the children programs that they have there.
Like after school programs, like they're fun. They keep me busy and preoccupied, instead of staying at home and in the streets, getting in trouble and stuff.
Wisconsin's after-school ambassador hopes that more and more people will show their support for Milwaukee youngsters and the quality after-school initiatives that are available. The superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools says if our children are engaged in the learning process and their energy is captured in a positive way, there will be a positive impact on their rate of success.
The main focus on the CLC grants that we receive from the federal government is that we have to provide academic focus. With that academic focus comes certainly other enrichment focuses, athletics, other types of recreational type of activities. But the main focus and philosophy behind CLC is this is an extended learning opportunity for our children. But not only for our children. It brings adults into the building, it brings senior citizens into the building, it brings our really younger children into the building, and the whole purpose behind it is really engaging the community, this school serving as a hub around the community.
I've been playing the bagpipes for about 8 years now, and I've played for the Emerald Society, which is an Irish law enforcement organization. The fire department contacted me to start playing this ceremony 6 years ago. We started playing it, and the firefighters got really interested in this thing called the bagpipes. So 2.5 years ago, we decided to try and start up a fire and police bagpipe band.
The Fallen Firefighter Memorial Service marked the first performance anniversary for the Greater Milwaukee Fire and Police Pipes and Drums. The unit is made up of about 20 current and retired members of the Milwaukee Fire and Police Departments and their families, as well as others from the protective services in the metro Milwaukee area.
The bagpipes, with their military history in this nation, have just kind of fallen in with the police and the fire, mainly because a lot of Irish and Scots have ended up in those jobs. It became a tradition, particularly for funerals within the service, and I think it's important because it can be so easily forgotten what these people do out there every single day.
I became interested after attending several police officer memorials around the country. So about 2 years ago, when this band started up and I was approached to see if I was interested, I was. I had never played the pipes before. I had played some other musical instruments, but never the bagpipes. And so I took the opportunity, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. It gives me an opportunity to participate in the ceremony itself, obviously, but in a larger sense, it helps honor those that have sacrificed and come before me and the others.
The 24-hour shifts of Milwaukee firefighters are busy ones. But when their work is done, these two co-founders of the group can be found practicing the unique bagpipe and distinctive style snare drum around the firehouse.
I just always thought the bagpipes were a really neat instrument, and I'd seen them played at memorials and things like that before, and just either people really like the bagpipes or they don't really turn them on, but for me it was something that always really touched me whenever I heard it at memorial services and such. And then I saw it on the board when Katie was going to organize the group. She had it posted in the fire stations that she was looking for people to learn to play, and that they had instructors and they'd be getting together once a week, and I just signed up right away, and I was one of the original members. It's a pretty hard instrument to play. There's not only learning the music, learning the notes, the embellishments in between the notes are a critical part of learning to play the instrument properly, and then also keeping time, reading the music, fingering the notes, and keeping the air pressure constant to sound the drone reeds and the chanter reed. It takes a considerable amount of physical exertion to keep the instrument playing, and you have to train for it. And it's just neat to be able to give something back, represent the department, and be able to do something a little extra just to show pride in our occupation, I guess.
I got involved for a couple of reasons. Obviously, my love of drumming and love of music. I was in the honor guard. We did a lot of the memorial ceremonies already. Someone had the bright idea, I'm not sure who it was, to have firefighters and police officers as our own pipe band unit. I have a background in drumming. I've been drumming for quite some time, and I said, sure, why not? Because really what I wanted to do is I wanted to serve the services at the memorials, at the funerals, and whatever type of thing the service needs. I just wanted to drum. I do volunteer a lot of the things that I do in addition to coming to work and fighting fires. I volunteer in a lot of ways, and music is my other passion. I've always loved drumming, and so this was a way for me to incorporate that love into my love of my job.
When their work schedules permit, band members also get together for a formal once-a-week practice session, either inside at Derry's Pub or outside at the Miller Park parking lot. They say the instruments require a great deal of rehearsal and practice.
It's amazing all the hard work that every single person has put into this. With the exception of myself and 2 other people, nobody else in the band has ever played bagpipes before, had never played Scottish-style drumming, had never worn a kilt, and the time and effort and enthusiasm they've put into it is enormous. It just can't be matched.
Performances by the group this year have included the city ceremony marking the 1-year anniversary of the terrorist attacks in New York City, and the memorial service in May honoring police officers killed in the line of duty. The band is not sponsored by the city. Members raise private dollars to cover their costs. They take vacation time to play in the events. In addition to memorial services, the band will play, if requested, at funeral services for a police or fire department retiree or one who has died in the line of duty.
Especially since so many of our members are in the protective services, it makes you think what it would be like if you lost one of your members to line of duty death, and it makes it very personal, up close and personal, and I think it makes us appreciate each other.
I think it's meaningful simply because, especially in a memorial type setting, the bagpipes is a very solemn and engaging type of instrument. It's a very emotional statement when you hear bagpiping music. I'm a drummer. You know, drums are drums to an extent, right? But those pipes, when the pipes sound off, it really snatches some emotion out of people that thought they were pretty jaded. And I really like hearing our pipers when they do that, you know, and I can see the crowd. I can see what happens to them when we do that. You know, I think it means something to people.
The focal point of the Lincoln Park neighborhood is the park for which it is named. Flowing through it, the Milwaukee River. Towering over it, 2 television transmission towers. At 312 acres, it's one of the largest, and residents say one of the most attractive in Milwaukee County.
This is a very serene place down here. You can see walkers at many times. And the best thing to see is the little small families when they come down with their little toddlers, or to see people that come in from the different areas that work around in the area, sit on that bench there and read a book. Serenity.
Much of the park was once swampland. Many of the homes are built on what was an onion farm. Situated on the far northeast side, the boundaries run north to Silver Spring Drive, south to Cornell and Ruby, west to Titonia Avenue, and east to the Milwaukee River and the city of Glendale. There's a variety of housing, including many Cape Cods and ranch-style homes on smaller lots.
Well, the neighborhood, I like it very much. People work together. We take our differences, we don't agree on everything, but we take our differences and we put them together and we come out with a positive.
I've been in the neighborhood for about 15 years. I think the people here, they are very friendly and they're warm and they're nice.
Over 30-some years. And I enjoy it, I like it and everything. And we get together, like we say, and have a lot of fun.
I enjoy living in this area. It's a very nice area. Sometimes, it depends on the time, it's a very clean area. And, but then you have some areas that is not as good.
Some of those not as good problems are discussed here at the Blatz Pavilion. Given to the park system about 50 years ago, it houses the Lincoln Park Community Center. Ruth Vernardo has served as its executive director since 1989. The center offers programs and services to the community, along with block watch groups and regular neighborhood meetings.
One of the problems that we face in this area that we work diligently on is drugs, gangs, and other criminal activities. And by doing that, we work with the people by having a meeting every second Saturday of every month.
Some of the residents who attend those meetings sat down with us recently to talk about their neighborhood, an area with challenges, an area with potential.
The most thing I would like to see changed in the neighborhood would be the crime issue be lowered and more jobs for the people in the neighborhood.
Like my husband was saying, more jobs and more education for the young people.
Some of these are young kids and some of them are young adults, healthy young adults that need to be someplace working. They need a job.
I think, that would be, for the senior citizen, I think that like a lot of places, should have more places like this for senior citizens to go.
The community center also sponsors Reclaim the Streets, a program for young people, and a program for adults who have been in trouble with the law.
And it helps individuals getting out of prison, find employment, help them if they had drug problems. Like I said, we have meetings on Monday night, and then they have individual one-on-one counseling. And Roxanne Woods and Ella Brown, and they follow up. If they send you to a job, they make sure they call you. Did you get any work? And if you didn't get no work, come on back down. So the program really do help. She does a lot for individuals getting out of the institution. But also the individual got to want to change too, but it's here for us.
Lincoln Park is overwhelmingly single-family homes. The many Cape Cod houses show the Lincoln Park neighborhood began to develop after World War II, although there are older homes. Among them, this duplex on North Teutonia, built in 1911, and this one on North 20th Street, which dates to 1905. There are business districts along the main streets. There are multi-family units such as Hampton Gardens and the city's North Lawn Public Housing Development. There are churches such as Lincoln Park Lutheran on Green Bay Avenue and Eastbrook Church, also on Green Bay. St. Michael Hospital is a major employer.
Lincoln Park's area is an area that mirrors the city of Milwaukee. We have all ethnicity over here. We have Pakistanians, we have Latinos, we have white, we have Russian, we have blacks, we have whatever is in Milwaukee, some of that particular entity is in this area. It's an area that is on the rise, and it's an area that is coming back from problems that was plaguing us, especially with homes. There are individuals that are in great need.
For 30 years, many residents near the usually quiet Lincoln Creek corridor faced flooding on a regular basis. A flood control project along the urban watershed has greatly reduced the risks of flooding. Residents played a major role in planning the project and say they hope to play a major role in making positive changes to the Lincoln Park neighborhood.
We stick together. We look out for each other. Right in the neighborhood where I am right now, there are a lot of retirees there. So I retired in June, so we kind of look out for each other. And if there's someone that don't have a ride to the doctor's office or something like that. I have someone to cut the grass. The neighbors usually pitch in and do it for them.
I would say this is one of the most together neighborhoods that you could really look at. Everybody seemed to be on one accord. Hey, you're my brother and my neighbor, and we just try to get it together.
And we know that if we sing solo, no one is going to listen to us. But if we sing in a choir, then we will be heard. And this is the one motto that we have in this area. What affects my neighbor affects me. And that's what we work on in this area.
Hey, we tried our... Don't tell me to calm down. I hate that.
Stop acting like an animal. You're in public.
I will knock you into next week. Stop it. No, I'm not going to stop it. That's it. We are leaving right now. We are leaving right now. Get up. Susanna, I said leave.
That public service announcement emphasizes one objective of the new Family Violence Unit, stopping the cycle of violence. Boys are 10 times more likely to repeat violent patterns they witnessed or experienced as children. 40 to 60% of all cases involving spousal abuse also involve children. Officers from the Sensitive Crimes Division and instructors from the Training Academy began hearing more at recent training sessions about what police can and need to do in the new Family Violence Unit. That includes learning the behavior patterns of both victims and abusers.
When you're seeing victims, very often you're going to see behaviors that from the outside we don't understand. We're in full command of our faculties. We are living our lives as human beings are supposed to live their lives. We need to remember that victims are battered. They're not stupid. They're battered. And when being battered over a long period of time induces patterns of behavior that respond to the battering. Likewise, when you're looking at an abuser, you're not looking at a manifestation of evil. You are looking at a person who has chosen battering as a response to trauma. The battering works for that individual. It has worked for them for a long time. We are hoping that in your professional capacity, you are going to cease the dynamic by which the battering works for them. That's really what we want to do. We want to interrupt that dynamic of battering.
Domestic violence is defined as the intentional infliction of physical pain, injury, or illness, intentional impairment of a physical condition, sexual assault, or a physical act that causes the other person to reasonably fear that any of these actions will occur. Domestic abuse applies to acts engaged in by an adult person against a spouse, former spouse, an adult with whom the person has resided, or an adult with whom the person has a child in common.
You're going to see male victims of domestic violence. You're going to see young boys who are being abused by young girls. You're going to see male-on-male domestic violence, female-on-female, etc. You're going to see it all. But what we want to change as a society is the collaboration typically between a male batterer and a society that accepts that behavior as normal. And you have a very critical intervention point in that dynamic.
Milwaukee County courts are expected to play a major role in the battle to reduce domestic violence cases. The county was one of only 3 communities in the country to receive federal funding for a judicial oversight initiative. The county's chief judge told police he's excited about the possibilities of the new unit.
Frankly, no matter how much good work all of these other agencies have been doing, and we do have a long track record in this community for 20 years, the City of Milwaukee's Commission on Sexual Assault and Family Violence has been doing terrific work. No matter how good that work is, they really can't impact change in the court system unless the judges are somehow involved in the process and committed to change. They probably can't impact necessarily change in the police department unless the leaders of the department, like the chief and like Deputy Chief Ray, are committed to this process and the need for some change in the way we approach the issues of domestic violence in the courts and in law enforcement. So that's what this project has been all about. Why should judges get involved in it? Why should police be concerned about it? Well, the answers, I think, are pretty obvious. When we've got a community in which, 10,000 calls related to domestic violence on a regular basis are coming through this department and other departments in Milwaukee County, 10,000, 6,000 cases are going to court, being charged by the district attorney's office. That's a massive issue for us as a community.
The Judicial Oversight Initiative funds a victim advocate, social service agencies that provide batterers intervention and victims assistance services, an assistant district attorney, and a court commissioner to deal with domestic violence cases, which the chief judge said involve different issues than in most courtrooms.
I run $2 million worth of pretrial service programming to try to get defendants to show up. It's not the problem in domestic violence cases, it's the flip of that. They show up because they're counting on the victim not showing up. That happens all the time. That's the defendant's mindset. And why does he think she's not going to show up? Well, because he's probably coached her into not showing up, intimidated her into not showing up. Their past relationship leads to that. If a victim doesn't care enough to show up, why should we care? Why don't we just forget about the case, dismiss the case, and do nothing about it? That's the kind of attitude you get on the street from a lot of people. But it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. We ought to care because we've got 10,000 of these things going on in the community every year, 10,000 family relationships somewhere infected with this kind of issue and problem affecting families, kids. And if we don't do something about it, if we don't try to impact on that relationship and where it's going some way in the court process, then it's headed downhill. It's headed in the wrong direction. It's headed toward violence, extreme violence. We've got to do something about it as a community. So we can't accept this business about the victims don't care, we shouldn't care either. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to judges. It ought to be unacceptable to you on the street.
Milwaukee police are often called many times to the same home for the same family members. It's frustrating for police, who, like many in the community, ask why the victim stays. Why does she go back? Why won't she testify? Speakers at the Family Violence Unit training session said there are many reasons.
Why do people stay? There is that hope that an abuser will change. These are people who love their abusers, and there is that hope that this time it's going to be different, and that is reinforced by the honeymoon period with, the flowers, the roses, whatever it might be. It'll never happen again. So that's one fundamental thing that occurs: the fear of being alone, guilt about the failure of the marriage. That also sometimes has to some links with people's religious beliefs as well. Insecurity regarding your independence and lack of emotional support, again, being alone. One of the most important things that we can say about this is fear of greater danger to themselves and their children if they do stay in that abusive relationship. The lieutenant from Nashville touched upon that. None of us know the safety of an individual situation better than they know their own safety. And the bottom line is, as we deal with people who are going through this process, the process of leaving an abusive relationship, there are a lot of people who believe and a lot of people who know that they are at greater risk if they try to break out of that relationship, because they have been told, if you ever leave me, I will kill you, I will kill the kids. What are the effects of witnessing domestic violence on children? What do we know from the studies? We know that the children are more aggressive, both at home and at school. We know that in school they're more likely to drop out and not perform well. We know that there's much higher rates of delinquency. When you're out in the field, a child that you arrest is 4 times more likely to have been abused at home than a child who is not abused. There's much higher risks of drug and alcohol use and dependence. There's a much higher rate of children who run from the home, a much higher rate of mental health issues, and as a result, about 6 times the risk that the child will attempt suicide.
Like you, we work a lot with the parents when we're dealing with kids, and no parent is prepared for these kind of allegations, assuming they're not the abuser. no one knows what the right way to handle this is and what the wrong way is. And so I found that it may be helpful to parents to say, you know, you're doing a really nice job believing your daughter, and we know that's the most important thing for her to get better from this, or for her to, or him to go on and heal from this, and just give them some feedback, because we really want them hooked in to this for the child's healing. It's certainly in the best interest of the child, but also for the prosecution, because what are we looking at if this child doesn't get support, and then we go into court a few months later and the child goes, what abuse? Nothing ever happened to me. We're looking at recantation. So we really want to support that family however we can.
You can refer clients to our Legal Emergency Assistance Project, and we can try to put them in touch with attorneys to help them get modifications of placement and get modifications of custody so that the children can be protected.
Officers were told that DNA testing will continue to be a powerful tool in their investigation of crime, including domestic violence. The State Crime Lab now has an offender database of 50,000 DNA samples.
The all-felon law, which basically said that all convicted felons have to give their DNA in 2000, basically right away, right off the bat, 16 sexual assaults were solved based on this law. 10 burglaries, 1 homicide, a double homicide, arson, death investigation, and an assault.
In 2000 in Wisconsin, over 25,000 incidents of domestic abuse were reported to the state. 29 of 173 Wisconsin homicides resulted from domestic violence. In addition, there were 13 reported homicides of children who had a domestic relationship with the offender. Domestic violence is said to be the only crime where intervention by police increases the danger for the victim. In most situations, people feel safer when police are involved.
But that's not what happens in domestic violence. As soon as there is intervention, the police are called or whatever, the victim becomes less safe. The secret is out now. The abuser's control of the victim is dramatically threatened by your intervention, and we're going to see that violence escalate very dramatically and become homicidal just because you are there, just because you are involved. That being true, we're going to have to give that victim a lot more supports than traditionally we did.
Milwaukee police say domestic violence reduction can lead to homicide reduction. In 2001, there were 127 homicides in the city of Milwaukee. Police say 24 of them, 20%, were related to domestic violence. The deaths included 12 women, 6 men, and 6 children. What defines a domestic violence relationship? Domestic and financial abuse, emotional and verbal abuse, isolation from a support network, power and control. Police were told there are a number of things a victim needs to hear.
I'm concerned about your safety. That cuts through the victim's isolation right there. You're not responsible for it. No one deserves to be hurt. Many victims will blame themselves for the violence. I had a woman once tell me she had 45 stitches across her head. She had her arm up in one of those casts that makes your arm stick out like this with a pole, you know, that's attached to your side. And she told me that it was her fault that her batterer beat her up because she took a sheet of paper out of his spiral notebook, and he told her not to do that. So it was her fault that she was in this condition. This is the reality of victims. That is how much their view of life has been changed by that abuser.
Domestic violence also affects the elderly. It's estimated that 1 out of every 20 older Americans is a victim of domestic abuse. The Wisconsin Bureau on Aging reports on average 1,575 reports of elder abuse. In Milwaukee, about 700 cases are reported annually, and it's believed there may be just as many that are not reported. The training session heard that in Milwaukee County, the oldest victim was 104. Another example was that of an 88-year-old woman who finally left a relationship with her 88-year-old abusive husband.
I mentioned her example to show you that change is possible, even at 88 years old. There are people who will say, well, she's that old, she's been with him so long, she's not going to change now. But the research shows that one of the things about this particular case is it's not the frailty needs of the victim that is the problem. It's often the health decline of the abuser that is the triggering event to the abuse.
Most of the victims are the functioning person in the relationship. They're the ones that have the home. They're the ones that have the income. The abuser tends to have either mental health or substance abuse problems and are dependent on the older adult for support.
The most common form of elder abuse reported statewide is self-neglect. Physical and emotional abuse account for 27% of cases received. Elder abuse victims tend to be women over 80 who are often reluctant to seek help.
What do we think we know about older abused women? Well, we know that it's not their dependency so much, but the dependency of their abusers on them that is the real danger sign. We also know that even very old people can change. So let's not give up either on her or her abuser. Let's devise batterers treatment for those people too. The other thing is, what do they need from us? I think the same thing other battering victims do, which is respect at that first meeting. Bernice Noble, who is the co-facilitator of our support group and a very wise woman, she said, Carol, make sure they call them Mr. or Mrs. Don't use their first name, because for a lot of older people, that's the mark of respect.
We can help the older person change the locks. We can put them in a temporary shelter. We can help get them their meds. We can work with families to get help in the home. We can call the Milwaukee Women's Center to do a joint visit. My staff do a lot of joint visits with Carol and her staff. You know, we'll follow up with Judy and with Court Watch. We can make referrals to senior law to get them legal assistance. You know, there's a lot of things that we can do, but in order to do those, we need you to call us.